Ukraine's forces have a stronger chance at recovering territory as over 1,500 armoured vehicles and 230 tanks arrive in Kiev.
2 days after a health scare, Turkey's President Erdogan was back on TV on a video link with Vladimir Putin to open a nuclear power plant. Rishi Sunak and Giorgia Meloni signal closer Anglo-Italian ties, and the two prime ministers say they're aligned in tackling migration.
Ukraine has a strong chance of reclaiming occupied territory from Russian forces now that its allies have delivered almost all armoured tanks as promised. That was NATO chief Jens Stoltenberg's message on Wednesday from Brussels.
Through the contact group led by the United States, NATO allies and partners have provided unprecedented support to Ukraine. More than 98% of the combat vehicles promised to Ukraine have already been delivered. That means over 1,550 armoured vehicles, 230 tanks and other equipment, including vast amounts of ammunition.
He added that partners have also trained, quote, 9 new Ukrainian armed brigades and stressed that reinforcements must be used as a show of force to achieve peace.
The front for this group of Ukrainian soldiers is at home, and it will still be active when the war is over. They are demining specialists and have already made safe more than 345,000 explosive objects since the start of the Russian invasion. This is a very dangerous mission, but one that is absolutely necessary, so that the civilians in the area can once again move and work with some normality.
Цих боєприпасів тут тисячі. І кожен треба знешкоджувати окремо. Сьогодні мінімум штук 70 ми їх похоронимо. Поміновано, на жаль, так, щоб ще на довгі роки тут не можна було жити.
According to a report prepared by GlobeSec, an international think tank, about 30% of Ukraine's territory, or 174,000 kilometres squared, has been exposed to intense combat operations. There are tens of thousands of mines, but also thousands of unexploded shells. According to experts, Ukraine is the largest mine territory in the world, and the war is far from over.
Russian forces pounded the city of Bakhmut, and the head of Wagner mercenary force said Ukrainian troops were pouring in ahead of what he called an inevitable counteroffensive. The Institute for the Study of War assesses that Russian forces continued making gains in Bakhmut as of the 26th of April. Geolocated footage shows that Russian troops have advanced in western Bakhmut. The think tank says competition among Russian private military companies is likely increasing here. Now, Russia has on the ground the Wagner mercenary group that's focusing on urban warfare, pushing for advances. Batok mercenary group, that's Stream in English, reportedly one of the 3 detachments from Russian state-owned energy company Gazprom, and Russian airborne forces. Those are securing the flanks. The Institute for the Study of War says the Batok personnel reported poor treatment by Wagner Group, who threatened to shoot Batok fighters if they withdrew from the line of contact. A Russian Mail blogger claimed that Batok fighters abandoned their positions in Bakhmut due to a lack of ammunition. The Institute for the Study of War previously assessed that Wagner Group leader Yevgeny Prigozhin likely views the proliferation of the private military companies around Bakhmut as competition, and it appears that the increased prevalence of other companies around Bakhmut may be causing substantial friction. Prigozhin said that Ukraine's armed forces will most likely start an expected counteroffensive in early May, quote, to cut the flanks that we are unable to cover because of the lack of ammunition. NATO Secretary General Jens Stoltenberg said NATO allies have already completed trainings and delivered over 1,500 armored vehicles, 230 tanks and ammunition, delivering in total 98% of the promised assistance, adding that Kyiv now has the military capabilities it needs to recapture territory.
The Akuyu nuclear power plant is one of Turkey's flagship projects. Building work by Russia's Rosatom nuclear power company began in 2018. The inauguration by Presidents Erdogan and Putin took place by video link. The $20 billion 4,800 megawatt project will contribute to neighbourly relations, according to Putin. But for Turks, the most eagerly awaited message was about their president's health. 2 days ago, he cancelled public appearances after an intestinal illness. The country's health minister says the president is now fine.
Sağlık durumu gayet iyi. Geçirmiş olduğu enfeksiyöz gastroenteritin etkisi azalmış durumda. En yakın zamanda programlarına devam edecekler.
Dedim ki artık
Those assurances matter. The health scare happened live on air during an appearance on Turkish TV. Concerns about the 69-year-old leader's health may sway voters in Turkey's elections on May the 14th.
helallik.
Received by her British counterpart in Downing Street, Italian Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni found common ground and a shared wish to strengthen ties between London and Rome. Rishi Sunak congratulated his guest on her leadership in responding to the war in Ukraine and stressed the desire to cooperate, as he put it, in tackling illegal immigration.
Traffickers and illegal migration is something that your government is doing very well. I'm following your work.
The Italian leader was clearly impressed by the Sunak administration's attempt to pass legislation denying the right to asylum to anyone arriving without permission, as her country faces a growing influx of migrants. The Italian government's declared a nationwide state of emergency and says the number of arrivals in the first 4 months of 2023 has quadrupled compared to last year. Finland's moving towards a new government, uniting right and extreme right. The Conservative leader, Petteri Orpo, wants to form a government with the far-right Finns party and two others.
Olen siis tänään eduskuntaryhmille ilmoittanut, että varsinaisiin hallitusohjelmaneuvotteluihin, jotka alkaa 2.5. vapun jälkeen Säätytalolla, lähdetään pohjalta kokoomus, perussuomalaiset, ruotsalainen kansanpuolue ja kristillisdemokraatit.
But reaching a coalition agreement won't be easy. Orpo's Conservatives are pro-European and want to attract workers from outside the European Union to alleviate the lack of labour. While Riikka Purra's Finns party, second political force after the elections, is Eurosceptic, and its main objective is to toughen immigration policies.
Workers are victims of a double blow. Inflation driving wages down as labour taxes go up. A new report from the Organisation for Economic Cooperation and Development released Tuesday says that there's been a loss of purchasing power in 35 of its 38 member states. One of Europe's largest trade unions says that the European Central Bank is making the situation worse by increasing interest rates.
Increasing interest rates is the wrong solution. It just hits working people and working families harder. Lots of families have loans for things like a car, or even now we've seen working families have had to put electricity bills and other bills onto their credit cards, and you increase interest rates on top of that and it makes a difficult situation absolutely impossible to manage.
Last year, household bills, transport and food price rises were 3 to 4 times higher than wage rises. Total inflation in the EU was 9.2%, while average wage increases stood at just 4.4%. The European Commissioner for Jobs and Social Rights told Euronews a new anti-crisis financial instrument isn't needed. Nicholas Schmidt maintains the Commission's position on targeted support for the more vulnerable and tackling unfair practices in a number of fields.
We have in some sectors a lack of competition. We have special profits taken with the argument there is inflation and that's why I increase my prices. And this is driving also in some sectors these price hikes. And this has to be combated also, and that can be done also through more competition on different markets.
Last September, a temporary windfall tax was approved to curb fossil fuel companies' surplus profits. The European Trade Union Federation says that the EU should extend this measure to other economic sectors.
The measures that should be taken are to increase the windfall taxes on windfall profits. We saw many companies during last year, 2022, doubling profits without any increase in their taxes.
In its report, the OECD warned that the most affected by this so-called double blow are families with children, particularly on lower incomes, and that the tax benefit system is not being fully adjusted in line with inflation.
A global alliance of scientists and explorers has begun a race against time to find at least 100,000 new marine species in the next decade, before overfishing and global warming drive entire populations to extinction. The initiative, called Ocean Census, is spearheaded by the Nippon Foundation and the UK Marine Research Institute called Necton.
We are in a race against time. We have global warming, the ocean's losing oxygen, it's acidifying, and as a result we're losing species. If that process continues, then we will face another major extinction in the ocean, and we will lose great swathes of the tree of life, essentially.
The Ocean Census will be the largest program in history to discover new marine life, embarking on dozens of expeditions across the global ocean. One of its goals is to lay the foundation for a diverse and inclusive scientific partnership that spans the globe and creates a lasting legacy.